Okay, everybody, thank you for tuning in. This is Sharonda again, and this is my podcast, Spiritual Sense. And give me just a moment. Okay, so this is Sharonda. This is my podcast. Today is August the 20th. It's a Saturday, and podcast as well as web presentation on my YouTube channel, Spiritual Sense. So in this podcast as well as YouTube. I speak on topics in regards to the paranormal, occult, supernatural. So I discuss things such as hauntings, curses, soul travel, reincarnation, belief systems such as Scientology, hoodoo, voodoo, uh, atheism. And so I'm going to proceed with updating on a topic that I did. I want to say it had to be either earlier part of this year or later part of last year called where I coined spiritual branded. So basically, over the course of my life, I'm one of those people that's an observer. I think many people are, and that's probably why I gravitated to the healthcare field because, I get a lot of sensibility about things, and I'm pretty sure the average person does. But in spiritual branded, I'm just going to talk and give you my synopsis as to what I feel that is. So I use the term or the slogan, life imitates art or art imitates life, whichever way it goes. And when you begin to get a spiritual sense about life, like when God begins to expand um, your thoughts and open up things within your being and your psyche, and you begin to take note of certain things. Oftentimes, it may appear as though, well, you will have situations where there's taunted spirits. And what I mean by taunted spirits is um, whatever you have done or whatever you have been made to feel shame about or not so proud of, many times it may appear as though the persons that are coming against you are coming towards you. No. And this is what I'm trying to get people to see for those who don't know and eyes have not been conditioned. The spirit would taunt you based on your own inner thoughts. So if you're someone that is not um, confident and have not had someone to sit you down and tell you exactly what that is, you would take it and run with it. And that's what I mean when I say angels and demons are one and the same. So what that means is, um, if you're not too proud of something you've done, you can go down the street and somebody will do an emotion to make you feel as though they are aware of it. Now, oftentimes that may be the case, but many times it's not the case. And that's why you have to develop a relationship with the spirit and the spirit of God to where you would know this person don't have a clue or inkling about it. Some things they just are conditioned to be. And many times you would see how when a person is, they may refer to that as being as personality or whatever the case may be. No, this is apart from personality. This is a spirit. These are spirits. And oftentimes you will be placed in alignment that would connect with those insecurities or deepest, darkest um, mishaps. So, say for instance, if you're someone who has some, concerns in regards to something superficial as a list or a speech, you may lack vocabulary, the ability to communicate. So you may be put in a situation where you just up and just go there, and it seemed like those spirits come at you, they're not even paying you any attention. That goes to show you that that's what I mean when I say taunting spirits. Taunting spirits. Whatever the thoughts or how you feel on the inside, when you're not strong and have developed strength, then you'll begin to see it in others. And it would just come through. It would just rain through. So to give you an example as to what I'm speaking about, like the movie with Emily Rose, The Haunting of Emily Rose. And if you can remember that movie where she's walking down in the dark and she's walking down the sidewalk, and as she's walking, she's seeing herself in the mirror, and it was a twerk in her being. And then when she began to walk out, she began to see that in others. So in other words, this is a force within you, particularly when there's something going on with you, you know, and then it's a force within others. So this is the spirits. That's why you have to, you want to try to keep a good relationship with God, to where you won't let that force overtake you and begin to work on the mind, the body, and then the soul. If you can reference back to um, my podcast where I mentioned about psychic attack, um, battle for the mind versus the body and the soul. And that's basically what that is in terms of demonic possession. But anyways, getting back to what I mentioned about tongues of spirits. So, anyways, getting into the topic, which is spiritual branded. So it's similar to um if it's similar to residual energy in a sense, but it's more or less on a higher scale when I mention about spiritual. I probably should say spirituality branded, or um, as I would say, set in stone. So I give you an example, like residual energy. Typically, like if you go to a home and things of the sort, you got some people that are sensitive enough to where they can pick up energies within a home or region or whatever the case may be. But spiritual branded, from my definition of it, is a term that I coined. It's a sensibility where you may go to a town or region, or um and it's just like you step into, not necessarily a time warp, but it can feel that way. And you begin to take on impressions. And people who are not aware of that would, think that you're mimicking, and that you are, that oftentimes it is coming from you. And you'll begin to see that this is the spirit, whether it be of God favorably or unfavorably. And I think oftentimes this is something that occurs more so than people would like let people on to know. So it's kind of like when you see the scenes, where they're talking about how when people go to church and they fall out, they this and that and all of this and stuff. So it's something that it's a force. That's the only way I can explain it. It's more or less different than residual energy. It's like a force that comes about in a certain region or location. And I just did a daily tarot card reading where I mentioned that something was put in my psyche in reference to an elite society where a lot of the women, you know, feel programmed. Like they don't have a voice, they don't have anything to say. Their thoughts, they're pretty much brainwashed. They don't have a voice to speak. Like they can talk, but no one listens to each other because this is the way it is. So, in a sense, when I mention about spiritual branded, that's what I mean. It's like a force. It's like you go into a town You know how they say, you go into a town and everybody do this on this day, this on that on that. And I think in a sense it's that same sensibility, like no one deviates from that. This is what this is. And oftentimes people would think that is like you are mimicking people, but it's more spiritual. It's more spiritual than you would know. Um, so you will begin to see that in certain it's like a culture in a sense, and it's more supernatural than you would know. You don't, if you are sensitive to certain energies, and I think this is what happens when people are sensitive to energies and they begin to move like from a place to a different place or region. And it's just like it just falls down on you. I mean, without even thinking about it. And it's more or less a force. It's not, it's energy, but it's more powerful than residual energy. So this is how you would know, you can tell that this is something that is occurring. This is the norm. This is the culture of the town versus just going in and just picking up on energies, and you may be able to mimic the spirit, then you may be able to mimic this the energy or what have you, and then you can bounce back out of it and you don't lose sight of yourself. That's residual energy, being an empath, picking up on psychometry, where you can touch objects and clothing and stuff, and you can pick up the energy. What I'm speaking about is apart from that. It is a force. That's the only way I can put it. I say spiritual branded. That's the only way I can put it. You know how you have they were brand certain animals and stuff and stamp them and tag them and such. And so this is basically what that is. And God had to let me know this is truly how languages are learned. And when you begin to go to other cultures and integrate in and begin to have empathy and I presume sympathy, it's a force that come within you, and that's how it is something with your, you know, it's something with the air, the equilibrium. You begin to hear in a different motion, in a different manner, and if you believe the spirit, that is how essence and languages are learned. Like when you go into a different region and you begin to take on that, and that is how um it is. Now I'm just using an example as essence and languages and things of the sort, but it's a more of a force. Whatever presents to you, if it presents to you, then it's more force. That's the only way I can put it. It's more soulfully force than anything. And I'm not going to sit here and say that's in all cases, but it's in many cases where you see give you an example as to what I'm talking about. Uh where a person has set roots somewhere may not necessarily be the case, or it could very well be if you over here you speak this way, over here speak that way, and here speak this way, and it's more spiritual. Now I do understand there's times where people can just and just talk in such a manner and what have you, and you got control over that. But when the force or the energy within a certain region or location is so powerful and strong, it can manifest in you. And that's what a lot of the changes in dialects and essence and languages things come about. It's because words can't explain it. It cannot be explained. If you believe it, this is where a lot of, you know, the changes and things or whatever that occur, because you begin to entertain and you become curious about whatever the case may be, and it becomes your reality. In a sense, is a programmer is more or less, it's more spiritual than we would know. I mean, we can give scientific definitions to it. We can, you know, explain it in terms of our time and space and our understanding, but it's more spiritual than you would know. Um, and you begin to, you know, emulate, you begin to take on the spirits and things of the sort. And I'm saying this to make a point. This is what occurs when people begin to wonder about the history, and when they begin to wonder about things that happen in, you know, in time, in a point in time in life. And when you do that, you begin to emulate and to carry out that same sensibility. Now, some people may refer to this as generational curses or whatever the case may be, but it's more spiritual than you would know. They can't change if they wanted to. This is what it is. It's the soul. It's the soul. And once your soul has been taken over by a different time and space, um, and if you continue to, you know, if a person who's not conditioned to know what that is would not know, but somebody that has received that spiritual discernment from God, you would know what that is. You would know what that is. It's in a sense, it's kind of like a reenactment or a sense of empathy. And I'll give you an example as to what I'm talking about because it comes to my mind. You know, I was watching some YouTube videos a couple of days ago. It could have been yesterday or maybe the day before, in regards to the motherland and the best places to visit, particular, you know, best countries to visit out of the motherland. And it had a, you know, 20 on the list, which, you know, from my understanding, is 56 countries in Africa, but 20 was suggested on this list. And so, as you know, I'm looking at them, I began to write down some of the countries because I'm saying to myself, okay, these are some really nice countries, and particularly the island parts of Africa were very beautiful. I mean, like in a different, it's like you stepped into a different world. I mean, just absolutely beautiful. Not to say that Africa is not a beautiful country, but oftentimes that is not depicted in, you know, regular TV. So it's like looking into another world. And I mean, a couple of them caught my eye, it did. But my main focus was on Morocco. That's what my main focus was on, was the country of Morocco. Now, it wasn't the beautifulest country, but it caught my eye because of the mystique of it and the, you know, the architecture, because it has a lot of Mediterranean and Middle Eastern influences in it. And that's what caught my eye in regards to that. And as I began to watch the video, and I'm sitting here watching the people interact, the culture, you know, the different buildings and things of the sort. And it became apparent to me, this is what spiritual branding is. And I knew that I was going to update the video. And so I said, I need to speak about this. This is empathy. Now, many of the inhabitants or the you know, people that live in the country of Morocco are of Arabic descent, but it was just like watching um like a reenactment. And as I began to look at the you know, the presentation and look at the people and how they interacted and things of the sort, it became apparent to me that many of the individuals are feeling this is empathy. Like somehow I feel as though this um this is their way of paying homage to the motherland, and they're feeling the sensibility of the country, of the inhabitants of the country, um, which is Africa. Now, I haven't looked up much history on Morocco because most of the people there was of Arabic descent. Have they always been of Arabic descent? I don't know. I haven't really did much research on it, but it became apparent to me that I feel as though this was them feeling some sense of sorrow and deep soul searching and empathy for the people of the country is what that was. And so that's why decided to update this topic, spiritual branded. How when you go to different places and not necessarily out of the country, it could be in a different, state or part of the country or whatever. And it's like a force, it's like a certain force. God has let a certain force over certain parts of cities, towns, countries as such. It's like a force. It's nothing that you can explain. And but God began to soften my heart as to let me know that this is why you have people that may travel from place to place because they're sensitive to that energy. And how I did do a podcast about spiritual apathy, how things happen in stages. Like life may be your world may be still turning and bright and shining, while in this part of the world it seems as though the world is coming to an end. And how things happen in stages. And with spiritual apathy, when the desires have totally lost in a place and a land, you will begin to see it in certain regions. You begin to see how he would begin to curse the land, and how it takes favor and the right practices and beliefs for to have restoration. Restoration not only of the body, mind, body, and spirit, but of the surroundings as well. So a lot of that became apparent to me in just watching that video. And he begins to put, things in my mind's eye and give me inclinations and I guess you would say wisdom about situation. But it mentioned well, I'm not gonna say it mentioned, it became apparent to me that this is empath, believe it or not. And when people get to a point where they're spiritual apathetic, and that's what transpire in a lot of locations where it may seem aesthetically or cosmetically unappealing. And it happens in stages. This is it happens in stages. You will see it in different parts of the country. And when things begin to become unfavorable and God flees his grace and honor from a people in a nation or a region, it happens in stages. It happens in stages. So this is what it is. It's kind of like is words just can't explain it. It's just the eyes has to be in tune to understand it. I did mention about culture shock, um, in a podcast a couple of podcasts ago, where you when you get into a environment that is different from your own, and how it will look through your eyes. Like words just kind of explain it. It's very very different to say the least. And when you are wanting to know, God will give you discernment by spirit guides. You'll begin to actually see well if you desire to, because I don't think God will force anything on you that you truly don't desire to want to know. And so I think that's what it is when you begin to live in a place where you begin to develop, a kinship and a empathetic feelings towards other human beings and their cultures and customs and the things that they went through, and by way of a change in your being, it's more spiritual than you would know. So you have a Rosetta Stone, you have a lot of these, language, educational software and programs of the sort, but it really comes by way of a spirit. And I think a spirit will visit you when you, even if you just, you know, go on the website, or even to learn, if you truly desire to and pray to, a spirit will visit you, and you will see how it changed the way you hear things. And this is how you begin to learn. Things will begin to slow down for you, and you'll get an understanding of that. And that's how, what it takes in order to learn another language. Empathy, number one, because once the heart has been opened, then you will be able to come in to receive. Okay. So that's basically what I mean when I say spiritual branded. You may be able to move to a neighborhood, or whatever the case may be, and it's just like, oh my gosh, it's a force like no other. And what is this? Is this me, or what is going on? And I think that's what, you have certain places that are deemed this way. And that's basically what it is. Okay. So I am going to conclude this episode on spiritual sense, speaking on the topic spiritual branded, touching spirits as well. I think I may do a topic on that later on, but I don't think so. And but anyways, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you're more than welcome to comment below. Until then, have a safe and wonderful day. Good day.